Welcome to the Magellan Network Show, episode number 364. In this episode, let's talk about blowing your business up and why that is an absolute superpower for financial advisors. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Coach Joe Lucas. For 32 plus years, I've done nothing but coach some of the most successful advisors in the industry. And in that time, have added over 50, almost close now, $60 billion of assets and $600 million of top line revenue. So these are strategies and techniques and frameworks that I teach my clients. I work with them on, and I'm going to share them with you gratis. So let's get into it. When I started the top of this episode, blowing up your business, let me give you a context on that. I truly believe, and in my experience, that every business needs to reinvent itself from time to time, where you just have been operating in a certain way for a certain period of time to a certain level. And then you almost like stalls out, right? The growth slows down. The game becomes less fun. You kind of get bored a little bit, maybe go on autopilot, right? Which is very deadly in this game. And it just kind of loses some of its juice, right? If you will. And what I've always found to be true is whenever you feel that way, and like in my world, that if it shows up in any given year, it kind of shows up around like this time, the May June window, because we're almost out of period two, we're almost out of quarter two. We've had our goals for the year. How are we tracking? And this tends to be the window where if I'm not feeling good about my business, I will blank sheet it, and I'm gonna walk you through the steps on what that means. So when I say the word blow up your business, first off, I'm not saying that to fire all your clients or do like crazy stuff. I want you to approach this as what we'll call a theoretical exercise. And in that theoretical exercise, one of the things you're going to do is come up with kind of your current reality, which is going to be, the numbers first, right? Where am I versus where I thought I'd be? And look, you can measure a lot of things as a financial advisor. Let's just measure the one thing that really matters, which is going to be a top line revenue, comp, income, however it is. But let's just talk about money, your money. And let's not talk about assets. Let's not talk about households. Let's just talk about what pays the bills, right? Cash, compensation, right? So where are you versus where you want it to be? That's the first thing you've got to look at, right? And then inside that conversation, why is it the way it is, right? So in other words, if you start playing the blame game, well, because of the markets or compliance or my firm or, then you're always gonna have a challenge in this game because you're abdicating your responsibility to grow. And I don't care if you're a W-2 advisor or you run a $70 million top line firm. I mean, ultimately, it's your responsibility. So the first thing you got to look at is where's my revenue versus where I thought it would be or where I wanted it to be, and what's my gap. Then we get into a little bit more of an esoteric thing, which is going to be it's kind of the question like knowing what you know today. If you can go back in time, what would you do different, right? And that's a very interesting question because a lot of times what I'll hear is I would spend more time in business development. I would spend more time marketing. Uh, some people would say I spend more time taking care of my health, right? And those all valid. Everything's going to be a little bit different, but there's going to be a thesis or there's going to be an answer to that question, right? There just will be. And again, we're not blowing the business up, but it's okay. So write that down. Hey, I need to have more focused efforts on X, right? Marketing, biz dev, health, whatever it is, right? From that perspective. And then you start looking at then you start looking at your team again, if you have a team, right? And so this is the question. And again, if you're a W-2, this may not pertain to you, but listen to the question anyway. Knowing what you know today about your team and each individual seat, if you can go back in time, would you still hire the same person? Next question, and this is for the W-2s also. Knowing what I know about my clients today, all of them, going back in time, would I still want to work with everyone I currently work with? Right? That's taking inventory. All right. Now with the clients, We're going to score them 3+1. And what do I mean by 3+1? Likable first, coachable second, profitable third. Those are our threes. And then +1. Are they leverageable? In other words, do they act as an advocate? Do they refer us, right? Do they help us grow? That's the +1. You don't get that with everyone, so that's why we call it a +1. And everybody knows there are clients that you literally have performed miracles for, and they'll never give you, and they want to keep you like their secret, right? They'll never refer you, and you can't make them. That's why we call it +1. But the other three need to be there, right? I mean, I've seen in my career, and look, we've all starting out, we all have done this, right? We just need clients. So we'll take clients we may not like. We'll take clients that are maybe not economically viable in the long term, but it's I met two ladies in Texas years ago, and it's a true model. Their kind of inside joke was, we were make a buck brokers. If it breathes and eats and got $1, they're qualified. And I'll never forget that. Like, that's bizarre if think about it today. But let's face it, money matters. So again, likable, profitable, coachable, right? They've got to be coachable. What's coachable mean? That they take advice, right? That you don't have to sit there and like have a battle every time you make a recommendation. Okay. They hired you to do a job, you do it. And as far as likable goes, I want to go back for that for a second before I forget. And here's the way I test it. If so-and-so is due for a review and you're hoping they cancel and reschedule, like, oh, so-and-so's in the calendar today. Oh man, I hope they cancel, right? Or reschedule. Like, that's a clue, right? That's your subconscious saying, hey, we're not really into this person. And I know early in your career, look, we've all done it, like I said earlier. So I get it. But as soon as you can move away from those toxic relationships, you need to do that. It sucks the joy out of the game. It just does. Right? Now, I will blank sheet my business probably every 2 to 3 years. It's been pretty consistent. And what's interesting is that exercise allows me then to grow my business, to scale my business to the next level, because I'm able to go ahead and make some strategic decisions on things. And I think that's critically important. So you vet your goals, you vet your people, you vet your clients, right? You do those are like the 3 tranches, if you will, right? Now, the fourth tranche or bucket, however you want to frame it to yourself, is my partners. Whether I'm inside a wirehouse, a tuck-in on an RIA, a W-2 at a firm, like, is this my future? Is this a good place for me? Is this relationship the relationship I'm going to have 5 years from now? And you evaluate it. It doesn't mean you have to take action on it, but don't be delusional and just stick your head in the sand if something's not right. Like, I see it all the time. It's always easier to live with something dysfunctional than to fix it. To do things that are uncomfortable require that, right? To fix things requires you to get uncomfortable. And not everybody wants to do that. And I get it. But then be okay with kind of where you're at, right? Bottom line. And I hear it all the time, in my career. Well, Joe, I'm really from my firm. I said, well, why are you at the firm then? Like, hey, I got money. I said, well, pay it back. Well, I don't have it. Well, that's your fault, bro. It's not our fault, right? So you just need to always take responsibility for things. And if you don't like something, change it. Period. If you're at a firm as a W-2, if you're at a firm as a W-2 employee and you like the culture there, you don't like the vibe, go to another firm. Shop culture, not compensation all the time. Right? It's the way it is. I've got clients that run tremendously, just beautiful enterprises with beautiful culture who are always looking for W-2 advisors. They exist. Just gotta go find them, period. Right? But here's what I'm saying. It is, in my experiences, it's crazy to sit there and be a victim and then have that be your narrative, like you're trapped. There's always a way out. I had a client several years ago, and I won't get into details, but he was at a firm, took some money, right? Halfway through the deal, 7-year deal, by the way. And situation changed, management changed, the rules changed, the environment changed. And he goes, I got to get out of here, but I don't have the capital. I said, look, man, let's figure it out. I said, well, what would need to be true for you to have the capital? And he goes, I'd have to go get a loan. I said, yeah, okay. So let's go do it. And he took out a home ec on his house, paid the firm back, went independent. 5 years later, happy, tripled his business. But how many of you would have bet on themselves like that to make that move? See, there's always ways to solve things. It's Tony Robbins says it's not lack of resources, it's not being resourceful that is the issue for most of us. And I never forget that lesson because there's always a way. In my coaching career, which, I don't know, 80,000, 85,000 individual one-on-ones in my career, that's a lot. In fact, we stopped counting like 5 years ago because it just got to be ridiculous. I bet you I know it's 80, 85,000. I'm having a tough time coming up with a scenario that there was not a solve. It was just whether the person was willing to pay the price for that solve. There's always a way. And so when you blank sheet your business, what you're doing is you're giving yourself a beautiful thing. You're giving yourself the certainty of of the past and the beauty and uncertainty of the future. And you get to do it without actually doing it. It's a hypothetical. It eliminates the fear. It eliminates the uncomfortableness. It's just an exercise. Now, some of you are going to say, well, why go through the exercise? You're not going to change. What's been interesting about that is that when you don't put pressure on yourself to follow through, your brain goes a different way. Because when you think about implementation execution, your brain creates a filter. And the filter is basically like this. How uncomfortable is it going to be? What's the threats? What could go wrong? And then you'll shut it. Most human beings will shut that conversation down. It's too painful. So if we go and say, hey, we're not going to worry about execution, it's just pure hypothetical. Like, what would you do? Right. And here's the other thing I do with my clients. And we're in this game together, my client and I, and we're talking about this. The other hypothetical I'm going to put is because there's an old saying, I think Dan Sullivan says it. If you can buy a solve, you don't have a problem. Right. So one of the strategies I'll use inside of a coaching conversation with a client is, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million, but you have to invest it in your business. You can't put it in your pocket and you can't pay stuff off. What would you do with the money? I'm going to give you $1 million. And what's interesting is when I remove the limitation out of their mind in the hypothetical, they start, oh, I would do this. Okay. So you know what to do. And the reality is you don't need the $1 million. You're just afraid to bet on yourself. And that's what it boils down to. Look, if you're an entrepreneur, again, I know there's two types of advisors listen and watch this. The W-2 advisor, which, by the way, you're the internal entrepreneur, FYI, and the external actual entrepreneur, right? It's all about risk. If you want to do great things, two things. If as a W-2, you want to do great things in your career, you're going to have to take risks. That may be asking for a promotion, changing firms. Like you're going to have to get uncomfortable if you're going to be great. If you're the owner or the partner owner, then you've got to be willing to bet on yourself. And you can't play it safe. I see many advisors who basically feel trapped because they did not take care of their own financial game. They earn $1 million, they spend $1 million. They're one bad quarter away from a big problem. Like that's not being a good steward of your situation. And I'm not going to go down the road, does it compromise you in terms of how you make recommendations? That's not a conversation for this episode. But you got to understand, like, hey, that game you may have played for a while, but you cannot scale and you do not want to scale that game. But by blank sheeting your business and asking yourself a different set of questions, like I just asked a client the other day, I say, what would have to be true for you to double your business in the next 3 to 5 years, with the emphasis on 3 years? What would have to be true? It's an interesting question. It's a blank sheet question. What would have to be true? And you know what they said was interesting. They said, well, we're doing well organic growth, but to really double in 3 years, we'd have to make an acquisition. We'd have to be on the other side of one, if not two continuity situations with other advisors. retiring advisors. I said, okay. And so if we're committed to doubling in 3 years, then how much time, energy, and effort are you putting towards identifying those 1 or 2 practices that we could merge into, acquire, whatever the process is going to be? See, by giving yourself this gift of the exercise, it gives your brain an opportunity to think differently. Now, there are some rules here. So the next question, so a couple of best practices. Number 1, this is never done in your office. I don't care how nice it is. I don't care the vibe. Your office is where you play your game. And we just can't have that. It's not, I want you to go somewhere. I'm not saying you have to go halfway around the world, but go somewhere for the day, if not maybe even overnight, a local happy place. If you have a significant other, bring them along. You can do this on a Saturday or Sunday. There's no rule saying it has to be done Monday through Friday. Change your environment. Number 2, no sacred cows. So you look at your team, you look at your clients, you look at your business partners, you look at your platform, you look at everything 100% objectively. Don't get into that's going to be hard or this, like, no, that's not again, blank sheet. Purely, you don't think about your past. You think about what's going to get you to your future. Second thing, okay? Third, think big, right? We tend to, as humans, and I've been guilty of this, so I've lived this for many, many years up until a couple of years ago. When we think about growth or more success, and we start thinking about what that looks like or what has to happen, we always subconsciously filter it through the current version of who we are. And I would say in every situation, the current version of who you are is not capable of that goal. Like the example I just gave, double your business in 3 years. Well, I can tell you what that conversation was like with that advisor, my client. Oh, I don't know, man. I don't think I said, stop. I said, what you're doing, you're doubling in 3 years, but you're putting it through your current self. Do you believe you're going to have more capabilities in 36 months than you do today? Do you think you'll be evolving to a stronger, well, a stronger leader, a better business person? You'll have more reps, right? Capabilities, confidence, competencies, all that. Would you be better in 3 years than now? Yes. So that's the filter we need. And the example I always use is, well, 3 years ago, are you the same person you were 3 years ago? Are you better at the game today than you were 36 months ago? Yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah. Okay. So then why would that stop? Why would that evolution stop? The reality is it wouldn't. So think big, but don't filter through who you are today. And the way I would say this to you is this: look at who you are today and go back 3 years, go back 5 years, go back a decade, right? And just ask, how much have I evolved as a professional, as a person, as a leader, as a business owner, as an advisor in the last 3, 5, 10 years? And why wouldn't that train continue? Because it will. So that's how you blank sheet a business. And then last thing I would say is look at all your marketing, your business development, what works, what does. Like, look, and this is probably central to the theme, is look at where your last, let's just say 10 to 20 new clients came from, 10 to 20. Where'd they come from? And is your energy and focus and budget aligned to where they come from? Or are you chasing the wrong thing? Right? Are you chasing popularity in social media where your referrals and your COI really are the ones that pay the bills? Because that's where the actual households come from. Like, you got to be clear on that. There's such a massive disconnect in our industry today where a lot of advisors are chasing. And look, there are outliers, and I do have clients that get business from like LinkedIn and doing social and stuff like that. But they're the exception, not the rule. The rule is, if we look at, a typical advisor, it's going to be some combination of client referrals and COIs. Unless you're doing like seminars, digital marketing, third-party outsourced lead gen programs. And I got clients that do all that, and they do it very successfully. But it's not for everyone. You got to know what works. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you want to know what works for you, look at the last 10 to 20 new clients you got. Where'd they come from? Quadruple down on that. Ignore the rest. Okay. So I want to thank you all for your time today and listening or watching this episode of the Magellan Network Show. You can find me on the internet at Coach Joe Guru, Guru. If you want to know about me. And then we have MagellanNetwork.net, which is our group program. So take a look at that. A lot of freebies there. And again, if you found this episode valuable, make sure you like this episode, hit us with a review, 5-star it, refer your colleagues to it, send it to your colleagues. And with all that, it's been my privilege to share this strategy with you. Have a great week, and I'll see you again in 7 days.